welcome back. Today I have a pretty awesome recipe to share with you. It's something that I'm pretty excited about because I myself just learned how to, well, maybe not just learned how to do it, but I think I've nailed it down now, and now I can share it with you. It's something that we've been doing for generations and generations in all of our cultures, but maybe within the last 70 years or so, because of like modernization and Western medicine, all of this crazy stuff that's going on in our world that's new and exciting, we've forgotten about it, and now it's making a comeback. It's fermentation. And when people hear the word fermentation, I'm sure they get scared because they're like, what if I get sick? Or I don't know how to do it, it sounds too complicated, all of that stuff. And I'm here to show you how to do it. It's not scary, it's not complicated, it's really easy, and it's a great, inexpensive way to get your probiotics in every single day. And we all know that probiotics are super important for our gut health as well as everything else, because it just helps break down what's in your stomach and distribute it out into the body. So let's ferment. So a couple of things before we get started with fermenting. So a lot of people think fermenting is scary, and it's really not. If it's done right, it's really easy and it's not scary at all. You won't die. If you make a ferment and your ferment starts to mold, I would personally not eat it, even if it tastes fine. You don't know what's causing the mold. You don't know if the mold is edible. The rule of thumb is if it molds, throw it out. You know, it's like a head of cabbage is like 69 cents a pound. You've spent pennies on making a jar of fermented something. So don't chance it, is my rule of thumb. So when fermenting at higher temperatures, the target range when fermenting is 60 to 70. When fermenting beyond 75 and higher temperatures, you think that would be better because your ferment would just ferment faster. But what happens is you're sacrificing texture, you're sacrificing flavor, you're also compromising your ferment. Things like the brine might evaporate, like some of the brine might evaporate out of the jar and make the top of your ferment susceptible to bacteria growth and mold. And the texture becomes slimy and soft and could even rot and spoil. So really maintain a temperature between 60 and 70 when fermenting. You can do it in your bathroom. If your bathroom's cold, you could do it in your bathroom. You can do it in your basement, you can do it in your garage. I live in a studio apartment, and my house is pretty much like 67 degrees anyway in the wintertime. So that's perfect for fermenting, and I just kind of keep it in a warmer spot on top, and it's been perfect. My vegetables have been crunchy and tangy and delicious. To start, we will need just like 5 simple ingredients. We're going to use cabbage, 1 onion, garlic, Himalayan sea salt, and you can either use grape leaves. I actually picked these ones in the summertime and I froze them. You can do that, which is pretty cool, or you can just get bulk black leaf tea from the natural food section at any grocery store, like you can get at Fred Meyer's. Just black loose leaf tea, and you're just going to put a pinch of that in your fermentation. Why is it so important to have leaves in your fermentation? Well, there's tannins, natural tannins in grape leaves and black tea, and that just helps your ferment be crispier like a pickle. Next, you'll need for equipment, you'll need a glass mason jar. You can get these at like secondhand store like Goodwill or Fred Meyer's. You can also purchase these plastic screw-on lids. You'll want to make sure that it's plastic and clean. These are, I don't know what brand, but you can get them at Fred Meyer's as well. And I use Reynolds wrap, the parchment paper. You can also use cheesecloth if you like. But for what we're doing here today, just a mason jar, a lid, and parchment paper. You're gonna cut out, to start, you're just gonna cut out a little square. And then I just do it like this. Like that, right? And you get the gist of what the circle looks like. Can you see that? It's so bright over here. There we go. Just like a little circle. And you're just gonna cut around it. And this is gonna go on the top of your ferment so that it keeps anything that's trying to poke up down. It just keeps it underneath the brine. And I'll show you why that's so important later and talk about it. Now we're gonna get a pot. So just a quart jar of water. You can use filtered water. It's, I guess, suggested that you use filtered water. I don't have filtered water here, so I just use tap. And you just put that in a pan. And then you're gonna do 3 tablespoons of Himalayan sea salt. If you want a less sour pickle, fermented pickle, then you're just going to use 2 tablespoons per quart. I don't know why. The saltier the brine, the more acidic the ferment, but that's just what I read online. I should actually post the link where I got a lot of this information from. I thought it was pretty helpful. So we're just going to let that come to not even a simmer. You're just going to warm it up a little bit. You just want the water to come up to a temperature like maybe like 50 degrees, 60 degrees, enough to dissolve the salt. Meanwhile, we're going to chop our cabbage. So here you just want to remove the outer layers of your cabbage that might harbor some bacteria that you don't want in your ferment. You're gonna do that with everything: carrots, beets, onions. Just take out that outer layer, give it a rinse, and you're gonna take the stems out as well, just because those are unpleasant most of the time. So next step, we've gotten our clean cabbage, we've removed the leaves and stuff like that. And I'm just going to create some shapes. I'm not making sauerkraut here, that's a little bit different. Same idea, there's just different types of flavors involved and some pounding. So I'm just gonna shred up my cabbage. This fermentation recipe is really boring. I'm going to say that because I like things that are kind of neutral, so I compare them with other things like in soups or salads or whatever. But you don't have to just do onions, garlic, and cabbage. You can do whatever you want. You can put lots of spices in there, pickling spices, cinnamon, dill, whatever. Go wild. But this is just a basic, let's get started, how to ferment guide. So I got my chopped cabbage here. I'm gonna put that aside. Up your onions. Just gonna do strips again. And just julienne your garlic. And then you have your jar. You're just gonna place one of your leaves of and the grape leaves that you might have saved in the summertime, which is kind of cool. Or a pinch of tea. You're just gonna put cabbage and your garlic, and all your goodies in there. Delicious. Give it a nice press. Nice. It's looking great in there. So I've just barely warmed up my water and I put my salt in there so that it could dissolve. This is about 100 degrees. It doesn't even have to be 100. Just enough to dissolve your salt. So just to kind of give you a range of, you know, how warm it could be. I'm just going to pour it over the top. And then I'm going to put my piece of paper just right on top like that. It's a little too much brain. I put the paper on top to, so what it's doing is it's acting as a protecting barrier, just an extra layer between the oxygen and the ferment. Your ferment might float up to the surface when sitting in the brine over time, and it will be exposed to air. And when your ferment's exposed to too much air, it just starts to grow mold, and then your ferment goes bad. The second layer of protection that I'm going to use on my ferment today is a lid. And what you're going to do is you're just going to screw it tight, and then you're just going to quarter screw it the other way, or quarter unscrew it, just like a quarter of a screw, but unscrew. Does that make sense? But just, you know, make it a little loose so that it acts as an airlock so gases can get out, but nothing can necessarily get in. And acts as a further protecting barrier for your ferment when you ferment. And so I'm just going to put this in a warm place. So I'm going to show you where I like to ferment my vegetables. I keep them at a little bit of a higher altitude than the rest of, well, where I generally stand, my altitude. I keep them higher up. So turning this around. So I keep my ferments up high on a shelf just like this in a dish. The dish will help protect your shelving from any explosions that might happen, because the natural bacteria that will start to feed off the sugar in your ferment will create gas, and they burp. And if there's just too much of a buildup of gas in your jar, it'll just explode all over your shelf, and you'll just be like super sad. So yeah, like just put your ferments in a container like this. Hey, so I have a ferment here that was probably finished about maybe a week ago. It took about 3-4 weeks. When you ferment, it will take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the temperature, of course, and what's going on. And so I have a finished product of what my ferment looked like. I have a finished product of what my ferment looks like. I'm going to try to cover up this window. It's so nice and sunny, but sometimes it makes it hard to see. So this is my ferment, and she's got, if you can see that, she's got a little bit of a pink hue on the vegetables. And if you were to do some deeper research on molds, you would think that that might be pink mold. But I do want you to keep in mind, for those who might be using pink Himalayan sea salt, that that's going to change the color of your ferment just slightly. If you're working with something that's pretty light in color, it will cast a pink hue of color on your fermented vegetables. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it's molding. So always check your ferments and make sure they're not molding. But if you are using a pink sea salt, then that's probably what's causing your ferment to be pink. Also, I want to show you what the top looks like so that you can understand that what a good ferment would look like versus a bad ferment. So if you can kind of see what's going on in here, there's no mold. I still have my protective layer of parchment that helped keep my ferment down in its brine earlier. I can take that off now that I'm refrigerating it. And there's no mold anywhere to be found. That's what a healthy ferment looks like. There's no mold around the jar. So that looks like a pretty healthy ferment to me. So if you guys are curious about like different ideas for what to do after you make a ferment, you can eat it raw just like me. It's pickly and briny and delicious just like pickles. Or you can put it on sandwiches or burgers. You can put it in stew. I made a fish stew the other night and I just garnished it with a little of this pickled cabbage, and it was really good. You can put it on omelets, so don't be afraid. You can put it on everything. I do want to warn you, ferments should not be heated past 100 to what? Ferments should not be heated past 120 degrees. When they reach that temperature, all of the good probiotics that you have just fermented and put in there, they'll die off. They can't really live past 120, so just be forewarned. Gentle heating. Don't boil them, or just don't cook them at all. Just garnish them with things. Happy fermenting.